Early 20th century archaeological excavations, deep within the Iraqi deserts, began to peel back the layers of time, revealing the true, astonishing face of ancient Babylon. Among the unearthed ruins, researchers stumbled upon evidence of technologies that, by the tenets of conventional science, simply should not have existed millennia ago. These remarkable discoveries fundamentally challenge our long-held assumptions about human progress and compel us to reevaluate the true capabilities of ancient civilizations. Could the master builders of that distant era have harnessed the very laws of physics to engineer levels of comfort we typically associate with modern advancements? The answer to this intriguing question has the power to transform age-old legends into tangible facts, proving unequivocally that our ancestors possessed profound knowledge, secrets that we, in our modern era, are only just beginning to grasp. For centuries, the prevailing scientific consensus maintained that humanity's development followed a straightforward and linear progression. From crude stone tools to formidable iron weaponry, and eventually, to the sophisticated machinery of today. It was widely believed that the ancient Greeks and Romans represented the zenith of early human development, with preceding cultures often dismissed as primitive or even savage. Consequently, any archaeological finds that contradicted this neat narrative were often conveniently categorized as anomalies or attributed to dating errors. However, a significant shift in perspective began to emerge in the mid-19th century. Reports surfaced of peculiar artifacts discovered in ancient strata, whose sheer age continues to spark fervent debate among scholars. As these anomalous findings proliferated, it became increasingly apparent that the official historical record might be overlooking crucial elements. The true paradigm shift, however, occurred in Mesopotamia. In 1936, just outside Baghdad, archaeologists unearthed a peculiar clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod within. 2 years later, in 1938, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig put forth the audacious hypothesis that this artifact was, in fact, an ancient electrical battery, the now famous Baghdad Battery. A bold theory further suggests that these vessels might have been employed for primitive electroplating or gilding techniques. Collectively, these extraordinary discoveries force us to confront an undeniable truth. Ancient civilizations commanded a level of scientific and technological understanding that we are only now starting to truly understand. Among the most captivating revelations was the discovery of an intricate pipe system meticulously laid beneath the foundations of Babylon's main palace. Archaeologists unearthed a vast network of baked clay pipes, astonishingly engineered and installed with remarkable precision. Mainstream historical accounts typically contend that ancient peoples disposed of waste by simply dumping it into the streets or rudimentary open ditches. Historians commonly assert that sophisticated pressurized sewage and water supply systems are inventions that emerged many centuries later. However, a curious engineer on the expedition decided to investigate the functionality of this ancient plumbing. He observed that the clay pipes were seamlessly joined with a waterproof sealant derived from natural resin. This ingenious solution allowed water to flow under significant pressure without any leakage into the surrounding earth. This groundbreaking finding indicated that, millennia before the advent of modern cities, the residents of Babylon already enjoyed a level of urban comfort and sanitation that we proudly claim as a hallmark of our contemporary era. While diligently working in the residential districts, researchers chanced upon the well-preserved home of a wealthy merchant. Inside one of the rooms, beneath centuries of accumulated dust, they discovered peculiar glass plates. What struck them immediately was their pristine transparency and a subtle, deliberate thickening at the center. Academic orthodoxy typically posits that ancient glass was inherently opaque and uneven, suitable only for crude beads or inexpensive adornments. Scholars generally insist that the craft of producing high-quality lenses only emerged during the Middle Ages. Yet, a serendipitous moment occurred when one archaeologist inadvertently placed such a plate over a clay tablet inscribed with minute cuneiform text. To their astonishment, the tiny characters instantly magnified, becoming strikingly large and clear. This unassuming object was, unequivocally, a simple magnifying glass, a testament to a master artisan who comprehended the intricate laws of optics long before physics was formally recognized as a scientific discipline. This small but profound artifact completely upended conventional wisdom about how ancient scholars might have observed the world and studied the celestial bodies. Researchers were particularly astounded by the metallic tools unearthed during the excavations. Within one of the ancient artisan workshops, archaeologists excavated saws and drills forged from an alloy that had resisted corrosion for thousands of years. The accepted historical narrative dictates that people of that era worked exclusively with softer metals like copper or bronze. It's widely believed that the intricate shaping of hard stones, such as granite, was accomplished through laborious friction or with the aid of abrasive sand. However, the telltale marks etched into Babylonian stone slabs revealed a strikingly different story. The stone surfaces displayed deep, perfectly uniform grooves, impressions that could only be made by extremely hard metal tools operating at very high rotational speeds. A modern stonemason, observing these marks at the excavation site, confidently declared that such precise indentations are characteristic of contemporary milling machines. This compelling evidence suggests the hypothesis of ancient mechanical labor, a concept that would profoundly revise our understanding of the history of technology and industrialization. As the team concluded their inspection of the workshops, they unearthed a peculiar mechanism composed of intricate bronze gears. Though severely damaged by the ravages of time, its remnants clearly indicated that it was part of some form of computational device. Modern textbooks typically assert that the first complex mechanical instruments emerged in Europe during the Renaissance, with historians often contending that ancient peoples were capable of constructing only basic levers and simple pulley systems. Yet, this Babylonian artifact provides irrefutable proof that engineers in ancient Babylon possessed the expertise to design and construct sophisticated machines, perhaps even for calculating the precise movements of celestial bodies. Such discoveries present researchers with profound and complex questions, demanding a radically different approach to our historical understanding. Each such artifact stands as a silent testament, eloquently demonstrating that we have profoundly underestimated our ancestors, who likely possessed advanced manufacturing secrets lost for millennia. As excavations continued in the central sector of Babylon, archaeologists encountered a narrative concealed not only beneath layers of earth, but also veiled by the hushed whispers of local legends. An elderly local worker, who had been assisting the team since its inception, once led a professor to a site where the ground had collapsed after a torrential downpour. There, within a deep gully, the edge of a massive stone slab was visible, coated with a layer of natural resin. The old man recounted in a hushed tone that his grandfather had called this place the House of Silence, where ancient priests supposedly preserved the voice of the sky itself. When the team finally managed to dislodge the heavy slab, they uncovered a narrow descent leading into a small chamber with eerily perfect acoustics. Tall clay jars lined the walls, their mouths precisely oriented towards the center of the room. Conventional academic thought typically dictates that such vessels were solely used for storing grain or wine. University historians commonly hold that Babylonian architecture was designed exclusively for external grandeur and monumental display. Yet, in this particular room, everything was different. If a person stood in the center and uttered even the softest word, it was dramatically amplified and echoed back to them, as if projected by a powerful loudspeaker. The expedition's engineers were utterly astonished by the meticulous precision with which the angles of the walls and the shapes of the vessels had been calculated. It became clear that, for the Babylonians, sound was as integral to daily life as bread itself. Such chambers could have served as venues for crucial civic assemblies or judicial proceedings, where the judge's voice needed to resonate authoritatively and thunderously, without any manual effort. This was not magic. It was pure, applied physics, ingeniously utilized by ancient builders to create a more organized and impactful civic life within their vast metropolis. Another remarkable discovery unfolded during the investigation into how Babylonians illuminated their immense structures. Archaeologists had long puzzled over how people managed to work in deep halls completely devoid of windows. Had torches burned there for years, the stone surfaces would undoubtedly be blackened. Historians frequently dismiss this crucial detail, suggesting that the walls might have simply been cleaned regularly. However, a perceptive member of the research team unearthed the remnants of a sophisticated mirror system crafted from polished bronze in an inner courtyard. These mirrors were mounted on adjustable stands. By directing a beam of sunlight from the outside into a specific point within the corridor, this ingenious system of mirrors could relay that light into even the most distant, subterranean rooms. This was, in essence, an ancient light conduit designed to bathe underground spaces in brilliant daylight. This groundbreaking find eloquently explained why Babylonian interiors appeared so remarkably clean and brightly lit. They didn't pollute their environment with smoky flames. Instead, they quite literally invited the sun to visit them indoors, a true marvel of ancient engineering. It was particularly fascinating to delve into the daily lives of ordinary Babylonian citizens. In one such dwelling, archaeologists uncovered a curious stone bathtub to which two pipes were connected, one from above, the other from below. Official historical accounts typically suggest that ancient peoples simply poured water over themselves from basins. Heating water in those times was considered a laborious and time-consuming process. Yet, beneath the floor of this very bathtub, researchers discovered a small chamber designed for smoldering coals, effectively functioning as an ancient water heater, remarkably similar to a modern boiler. A Babylonian could, therefore, indulge in a hot bath after a long day of labor by simply igniting a small fire in the specialized compartment. This represented a level of personal comfort that would not become commonplace in Europe for another 2 millennia, highlighting an extraordinary advancement in ancient domestic engineering. The enigmatic nature of these discoveries often manifested even in the most mundane household items. For instance, in the kitchen of one home, a copper pot was found, its interior coated with a thin layer of silver. Contemporary science might readily dismiss this as mere decorative embellishment. However, when viewed from a practical standpoint, silver possesses potent antibacterial properties, effectively sterilizing water and preserving its freshness for significantly longer periods. This suggests that ancient Babylonian homemakers were not only aware of the antimicrobial qualities of metals, but strategically utilized them to safeguard their families from illness. They weren't merely preparing meals. They were intelligently applying principles of rudimentary chemistry to enhance daily hygiene and well-being. This unfolding narrative beneath Babylon vividly illustrates how often we tend to condescend to our ancestors, mistakenly deeming them primitive. Yet, upon encountering their sophisticated plumbing, ingenious mirror-based lighting systems, and advanced heating solutions, it becomes undeniably clear that their daily lives were organized with a far greater degree of intelligence and ecological awareness than our own. What we have uncovered are not merely ruins, but the indelible imprints of a civilization that mastered the art of living in profound harmony with nature, cleverly employing their intellect to forge comfort without demanding the wanton destruction of the surrounding environment. To truly grasp how these Babylonian discoveries are fundamentally reshaping our historical understanding, one must view them not as magical curiosities, but as undeniable proof of an extraordinarily high level of ancient engineering prowess. Archaeologists, pressing on with their excavations, uncovered beneath the sand an urban planning system of astonishing logic and foresight. Along the main thoroughfares, they discovered the remnants of peculiar structures made from fired brick, containing copper rods encased within a thick natural resin. Within academia, it is generally accepted that copper in those ancient times was used solely for ornamentation, weaponry, or basic utensils. Historians are confident that any notion of ancient knowledge regarding electricity or energy transmission is pure speculation. However, if these copper constructions did indeed serve to protect buildings from lightning strikes or to dissipate static charges, it implies that the Babylonians comprehended the physics of atmospheric phenomena millennia before Benjamin Franklin. This completely transforms our understanding of just how safe and thoughtfully designed life was within this ancient metropolis. This astonishing precision extended into the daily lives and crafts of ordinary people. In one of the artisan quarters, scientists discovered a stoneworking workshop. Within it lay basalt slabs whose surfaces had been polished to a mirror-like sheen. Modern science typically asserts that such a high degree of polishing in ancient times would have required months of arduous manual labor, employing sand and water. Yet, under a microscope, the stone surfaces revealed microscopic circular marks, patterns typically left by a rotating tool. This strongly suggests that the Babylonians possessed primitive, yet remarkably effective, machine tools. If this evidence is corroborated, the entire history of technology will require a fundamental reevaluation. It would mean that the mechanization of labor began not in the 15th century, but in the deepest antiquity, with these advanced skills subsequently lost to time. Furthermore, another compelling piece of evidence compelling science to question old dogmas is linked to ancient medicine and chemistry. In one of the homes, archaeologists found a set of narrow-necked ceramic vessels. Analysis of their contents revealed the presence of acids and metal salts. Official history posits that chemistry, as a formalized science, only emerged during the Middle Ages, largely thanks to the early alchemists. Scholars have grown accustomed to believing that ancient peoples utilized only what nature provided in its purest form. However, these vessels could have been integral to a sophisticated process of gilding ornaments. If Babylonian jewelers employed chemical deposition for gold, rather than mere hammering or simple application, it undeniably demonstrates a profound understanding of the composition of matter. The daily life of a wealthy Babylonian was seemingly filled with items whose creation would have necessitated complex laboratories, facilities whose very existence we had never previously conceived. The city's food supply system also warrants particular attention. Along the intricate network of canals, archaeologists unearthed the remnants of mechanisms powered by the river's current. These featured sophisticated gear transmissions crafted from hardened wood and bronze. According to the official historical narrative, such complex gear systems only appeared in ancient Greece. However, the Babylonian finds clearly indicate that the automation of field irrigation was a routine practice. Yet, simultaneously, it raises a crucial question. Why didn't these remarkable technologies spread further, and why were they seemingly forgotten for centuries? The profound mystery of these discoveries doesn't lie in their resemblance to alien technology, but rather in their utter logicality and seamless integration into daily life. Within ordinary residential homes, researchers found instruments for observing shadows, devices that allowed the determination of time with minute-by-minute accuracy. We are accustomed to believing that time was a fluid, less precise concept for ancient peoples. However, Babylon decisively demonstrates that their lives were meticulously planned and strictly governed by the rigorous laws of mathematics, indicative of a highly organized society. If all these facts are officially acknowledged, the history of humanity will cease to appear as a slow and arduous ascent from primordial darkness. Instead, it will reveal itself as a series of brilliant flashes of innovation. Babylon was undoubtedly one such dazzling flash, where human intellect masterfully engineered a comfortable and technologically advanced way of life using surprisingly simple materials. Every unearthed mechanical component or complex chemical composition found within an ancient jar provides compelling reason to acknowledge that we are not the first to conceive of sophisticated inventions. Our ancestors merely followed their own distinct path, a trajectory that was demonstrably far more progressive than what older textbooks have led us to believe. Continuing their exploration, archaeologists delved deeper into understanding how Babylonian life was organized at the scale of entire city blocks. One of the most monumental discoveries was an extensive ventilation system that permeated the city underground. Official scientific consensus has long held that ancient metropolises were stuffy and malodorous places, where inhabitants suffered from oppressive heat and foul odors. University scholars typically assert that indoor ventilation in those times relied solely on open windows and doors. However, beneath Babylon, researchers uncovered a sophisticated network of vertical shafts that plunged deep into the soil, connecting to horizontal tunnels. At the base of these shafts, a constant pool of water, supplied by hidden underground channels, was always present. When the scorching desert air entered such a shaft, it would undergo a rapid cooling upon contact with the water, then be subtly displaced by pressure into residential rooms through specially designed floor vents. This was an ingenious system of natural air conditioning, functioning flawlessly without a single motor. Consequently, the daily lives of ordinary citizens were shielded from the debilitating desert heat. People could comfortably relax in the cool interiors of their homes while outdoor temperatures soared above 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. This discovery profoundly alters our understanding of ancient architecture, unequivocally proving that the Babylonians possessed the ability to precisely control air currents with the expertise of modern engineers. The enigmatic nature of this discovery intensified when, Within one of these ventilation nodes, remnants of peculiar filters were found. They were meticulously constructed from several layers of fine mesh copper netting and palm fibers, all impregnated with an antiseptic compound. Academic science commonly asserts that the concept of air hygiene only emerged in the 20th century. It is widely believed that ancient peoples were unaware of airborne dust or microbes. However, these sophisticated filters unequivocally demonstrate that the Babylonians were deeply concerned with the quality of the air they breathed. They consciously purified it from sand and impurities, thereby creating a uniquely controlled microclimate within the city. This points to a civilization that prioritized human health and comfort, leveraging subtle knowledge of biology and physics to achieve it. While studying the commercial districts, archaeologists came across a building that, by all indications, served as an ancient archive or bank. Inside, thousands of clay tablets were found, but what truly captivated the scientists was not the tablets themselves, but the construction of the shelving units. These shelves were crafted from baked wood, coated with a special lacquer that proved remarkably fire-resistant. When researchers attempted to ignite a small piece of this coating, it merely darkened slightly but refused to burst into flame. Official history states that fire-retardant materials are an achievement of the chemical industry from recent centuries. Yet, the Babylonians, even in that distant past, clearly understood how to protect their vital documents from the devastating fires that frequently plagued densely built cities. The daily environment of a Babylonian official or banker was evidently equipped with items designed to ensure information preservation. They weren't merely writing on clay. They were actively creating sophisticated security systems that we typically consider modern innovations. Within the same building, researchers also discovered peculiar seals made from an alloy of metals, impossible to counterfeit through conventional casting methods. Each such seal bore a unique microscopic pattern, discernible only when light struck it at a specific angle. This was an ancient form of anti-counterfeiting security, akin to a holographic sticker of its era. This remarkable discovery necessitates a reevaluation of the history of forensics and law, revealing that Babylon's financial system was protected with far greater sophistication than generally acknowledged in academic circles. Moving towards the city's outskirts, archaeologists uncovered the remains of an extensive irrigation system that supplied water not only to agricultural fields but also to the private gardens of the city's residents. Conventional modern science asserts that irrigation in Mesopotamia was primitive, involving slaves laboriously scooping water with leather bags and pouring it into ditches. Historians often describe this as arduous and inefficient labor. However, beneath Babylon, a system of automatic sluice gates was discovered, mechanisms that activated autonomously when the water level in the canal reached a predetermined mark. Inside these mechanisms were floats made of cork and counterweights of stone. As the water level rose, the float would push a lever, opening the sluice gate and directing water to the designated plot. Once the water level receded, the system would automatically close. This ingenious design allowed gardens to be watered continuously, 24 hours a day, without any human intervention. The daily life of a Babylonian gardener was automated to a degree that seems utterly incredible for that epoch. Thanks to this, the city literally flourished with greenery, transforming into a vibrant, blooming oasis amidst an otherwise barren desert. This finding fundamentally reshapes our understanding of ancient agricultural history and its technological sophistication. The enigmatic nature of these findings reached its zenith when a time capsule was discovered within one of the foundations. Inside lay a meticulously crafted blueprint of the city, etched onto a thin sheet of bronze. This intricate drawing depicted communication lines that archaeologists had not yet even begun to excavate. Most astonishingly, the map scale was maintained with millimeter-level precision. Academic science firmly asserts that ancient maps were schematic and imprecise, given the perceived lack of instruments for measuring vast distances. However, this bronze plate provided undeniable proof to the contrary. The Babylonians possessed sophisticated surveying methods that enabled them to perceive the city as a cohesive whole, almost as if they were viewing it from a great height, a truly advanced form of urban planning and cartography. At the conclusion of this phase of work, researchers uncovered a trove of writing instruments. Amidst the conventional styluses used for clay tablets lay unusual pens with metallic nibs, each containing an internal reservoir for ink. These were, in essence, precursors to modern fountain pens. Official history states that such self-contained pens only appeared in the 19th century. It is widely believed that ancient scribes constantly dipped their tools into inkwells, making the writing process lengthy and messy. However, Babylonian scribes could have written for hours without interruption on parchment or leather, thanks to these ingenious devices. This discovery fundamentally alters the history of literacy and education, demonstrating that the speed and efficiency of information exchange in Babylon were far greater than we have traditionally imagined. All these findings, ranging from fire-retardant lacquers to automated irrigation systems, coalesce into a compelling portrait of a world where humanity was not merely enslaved by nature. Instead, humans were astute partners with the natural world, skillfully employing the laws of physics for their own convenience and advancement. The history of humankind, as it is currently taught, now appears incomplete and truncated, failing to account for these brilliant solutions devised by ancient engineers. Babylon, beneath the feet of archaeologists, continues to unveil its profound secrets, unequivocally proving that true progress is not solely about electricity and the internet, but primarily about the human mind's remarkable ability to solve complex problems through the most elegant, simple, and effective means. Continuing their exploration along the ancient paved streets, archaeologists came upon a residential house that had remarkably withstood the test of time better than others. Within it, they discovered an object that, at first glance, appeared to be a mundane kitchen utensil. A massive stone slab with a smooth indentation and a heavy cylinder that fit perfectly within it. Academic science typically classifies such finds as simple grinding stones, asserting that the daily lives of ancient women were dominated by the endless, arduous task of manually grinding grain. Scholars often describe this as debilitating labor that consumed all their time. However, upon closer inspection, traces of an attachment point for a drive belt were found on the cylinder's axle. It became clear that this mill was part of a small mechanical assembly, powered either by a domestic animal or a compact water wheel in the courtyard. The woman of the house would no longer need to spend hours rubbing stone against stone. She simply poured in the grain, and the mechanism performed all the laborious work for her. This was, in essence, an ancient household appliance, designed to free up valuable time for raising children or pursuing education. Such a discovery fundamentally reshapes our understanding of Babylon's social structure. It indicates that even in ordinary families, time and human labor were valued, and engineering ingenuity was directed towards alleviating daily burdens. This conclusively demonstrates that progress in ancient times extended beyond just palaces and temples. It meaningfully entered every household. In the same house, within a storeroom, researchers discovered hermetically sealed vessels made from a unique type of glazed ceramic. When one of these containers was carefully opened, they found oil inside that, despite millennia, had not gone rancid and had perfectly preserved its properties. The official history of medicine and chemistry asserts that preserving products for such an extended period without modern additives and vacuum packaging is impossible. It is widely believed that ancient peoples constantly suffered from poor quality food. However, the Babylonians employed natural resin for preservation and a specific combination of minerals in the ceramic composition, which together created an environment within the vessel that effectively suppressed bacterial growth. This was applied biology in action, ingeniously integrated into the everyday life of a most ordinary family. The floor in the bedroom of this house sparked particular interest. It was a double floor, and within the hollow spaces between the layers of brick, remnants of burnt herbs and charcoal were found. Modern science typically holds that ancient residential heating was confined to simple open hearths in the center of rooms, which produced abundant smoke and soot. Historians confidently assert that people merely wrapped themselves in animal skins to ward off the winter cold. However, the discovered underfloor heating system proved unequivocally that the Babylonians understood the principles of convection. Hot air from a small furnace located outside the house circulated beneath the floor, warming the sleeping areas without contaminating the room's air with combustion byproducts. This represented a level of comfort that we today consider a hallmark of elite housing. Yet, for the residents of Babylon, it appears to have been a standard of quality living accessible to many. The profound significance of these findings lies in their widespread nature. They were not isolated anomalies or the singular whims of a wealthy individual. Rather, they point to a citywide culture of comfort and sophisticated living. In a neighboring quarter, archaeologists discovered a workshop where footwear was crafted. There, they unearthed sandals featuring what appeared to be shock-absorbing soles, within which layers of springy cork and thin copper wire had been meticulously integrated. Academic science generally contends that ancient footwear was flat and detrimental to foot health, with orthopedics being a science developed only within the last century. However, Babylonian shoemakers were clearly designing footwear that took into account the impact on the spine during extended periods of walking on stone pavements. The daily lives of citizens, who traversed considerable distances for trade or construction, were evidently enhanced and protected by these clever, small-scale engineering solutions. The incredible discoveries in Babylon compel us to undertake a complete overhaul of our history textbooks. Where it was once assumed that the ancient world was defined by manual labor and pervasive superstition, we now see irrefutable evidence that our ancestors possessed serious and sophisticated technologies. Acknowledging that millennia ago, people utilized systems for gas lighting, complex mechanisms, and even chemical principles for gilding metals, fundamentally alters the very essence of our historical chronology. It suggests that the industrial and scientific revolutions did not commence in Europe a mere couple of centuries ago, but were rooted in deep antiquity. It seems many of these advanced understandings were simply lost or forgotten over time. These paradigm-shifting discoveries transform history from a linear trajectory of continuous progress into a dynamic chain of ascents and declines. They undeniably prove that humanity had already attained high levels of life and comfort, even without relying on electricity or petroleum. Such compelling facts force scientists to concede that ancient civilizations were not merely a preliminary step towards our modern era, but rather fully independent and highly developed worlds in their own right. The history of Babylon powerfully teaches us that great knowledge can vanish if not meticulously preserved, and that we, in the present day, are by no means the first to master the forces of nature for the sake of a convenient and comfortable life.